Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kieran Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken?
Hey, Kieran.
Oh, Ryan, are you recording inside a tin can here? What's going on? It sounds like you are not on the professional mic. So is your Rode podcast, or our favorite podcasting mic that has served us well for 4 years, is it Kaputski?
It is Kaputski. I'm back in New York. I got in this morning on the red eye, so feeling great.
Oh, wow. I was like, this is first day back. Oh, my God.
And I already this afternoon, I set it all up, and I figured maybe something was going on that day.
It magically repaired itself.
But it did not. And so I've got a new one coming, same model. We've been doing this for like a couple years, so that lasted. It got a good run out of it.
About 4 years. Now, just a quick tip: make sure when you throw it out that you keep the little puffer piece at the top there.
I already looked, and that's an extra $4.99 I'm saving.
Exactly.
So I took it right off.
Right. See, these are the sorts of tips you can get here on Out of Office. Welcome back. Now, before we jump into the fact that you're back in New York after much time away, Ryan, a very special and fascinating episode you've got lined up for us today.
Yeah, there was a viral article last week called "Every State's Favorite American Tourist Attraction" based on millions of reviews. And it's a really fun graphic, and we're linked to the graphic and the article in the show notes from the folks over at HawaiianIslands.com. And we've got Brittany Mendez on the show to talk a little bit about some of the cool stuff that is on this list that I didn't know half of this stuff.
No, it was in incredible places that I've never heard of, just the sort of places that I'm interested in finding out about and putting on the list to go to. But just to say again what exactly it is, because when I first saw it, I misunderstood what it was. I thought that it was the best thing to see in that state, but that's not what it is.
No, it is what are the favorite things from tourists from each state. So what do New Yorkers love about another state? What do Marylanders love about another state? So it is asking people who are domestic travelers, where have they been and really liked, or what haven't they liked in some cases.
I love it. It's very, very cool. And as you say, it's very unexpected hits. Like you would have thought maybe the big national parks or the Smithsonian, those sorts of places would come up, but a lot of real niche stuff here.
Yeah, no, the way they do it is they look at all these reviews and they run an average on TripAdvisor. So you come out with some of the greatest hits, the Grand Canyon, also smaller things like the Oklahoma City National Museum, which was probably really interesting, and Arlington National Cemetery, which is a beautiful, really stunning place in Arlington, Virginia, that I went as a kid because I'm from that area. But these are not like it's not the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, right. And so you're gonna dive into the list and some highlights and some other odd findings, and then you and I are each gonna pick 3 of the places that most inspired our spirit of wanderlust, even before we get to the last stop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're gonna give our own picks because there's a lot here. I mean, you could plan a whole road trip around this.
Totally. Now, you mentioned first day back in New York. Now, how long were you gone in total?
About 6.5 weeks.
6.5 weeks. So after that long a time away, do you agree with the case for travel that we put out on a couple episodes ago? Or are you so exhausted that you're starting to come around to the New Yorker's point of view?
I tell you, I'm looking forward to being a tourist in New York City. I'm looking forward to going back to the Eastern Shore and seeing some family over August. So I'll still be engaged in the world. I can do that in my hometown.
Exactly. So how long are you staying put for?
Not counting the Eastern Shore, I'll be here for another month or 2.
I count the Eastern Shore, but that's good. A fair chance I'm going to be down in New York in that time, Ryan. So it'd be fun to do an episode together.
Yeah, keep me in the loop.
So tell me, what episodes are we going to have coming up out of that 6 weeks of travel? I'm salivating even thinking about it.
Cartagena and Santa Marta and sort of that Caribbean side of Colombia. It's really beautiful out there. And, was lucky enough to spend about 10 days in between those two cities and have some thoughts. So you might be able to see that in an episode coming up shortly.
Beautiful. Sounds very inspiring.
Oh, Kieran, I want to welcome our new listeners coming in from the Apple Podcast you might also like.
Are you trying to make a good impression with your shitty in laptop mic appearance here?
Oh, they like the authenticness of
I think it is very authentic that it broke while you were out on the road.
It's literally a travel accident.
It's one of the many dangers of travel as a podcaster.
Yeah. I think podcasters should send me a free mic for all the talking about it I've done.
That's a fascinating idea.
Folks, write to Road Podcaster and say, send Ryan Davis a new microphone.
That's pretty desperate. Or just donate some money to us directly would be a good way Only
Skyline miles, airline miles. Send them our way. But folks should rate and review us. Give us 5 stars if you like the pod. Leave a comment. Tell us where to go. Tell us things to cover. And, we might read out some of our favorite reviews we get on the old pod.
Definitely appreciate the reviews. Also, let's just get ahead of the criticisms that you're going to have of us in the future. We try to keep politics out of the conversation. Heading into a presidential contest, though, Ryan, that does get harder and harder. We're going to have to watch ourselves.
Yeah, we're going to have to do like the things to see when you're campaigning in Iowa episode.
Ryan and I are liberals. Okay, half the listenership just dropped off. Listen, for those that hung on, we try not to bring it in. We heard you in the comments, so we're not woke. And I think we both have a healthy respect for one Mitt Romney.
We do. We both love Mitt Romney. We love hot dogs with and without the bun.
That hot dog video, it was the best.
Hot dog is my favorite meat. I love hot dogs. I love them in buns. I love them outside of buns. I love them with baked beans. I just like hot dogs.
Mitt Romney trying to be relatable. I mean, that is just the tip top. That is the Republican Party I miss.
I know. He's so likable in that
He's
video.
Got the tie on, took the jacket off. He's doing a walk and talk, clearly unscripted. My favorite meat is hot dog. It's priceless. That man has not had a hot dog.
You do a great Mitt Romney.
Thank you. It's just Jason Sudeikis from SNL just copying
If he runs again, you're going to have to bring that out more often.
I mean, be still my heart if Mitt Romney runs again. That's the dream.
Well, speaking of keep it nonpartisan, I appeared on a podcast called Overcoming the Divide a couple weeks ago, and I'll link to it in the show notes. So this is season 4 of the pod, and it's hosted by a guy named Daniel Cochran. And he's had a bunch of people on in politics and in culture, and
he's getting sort of the bottom of the barrel of the guest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he had Malcolm Gladwell, and he's like, gotta go to me. But yeah, so it was an interesting podcast, and we get into a lot of stuff. Not a lot of travel, more Bernie Sanders and travel.
Oh, well, that's okay by me. Now, I will give that a listen, Ryan. For all the joshing, I love hearing your political insights. You're a political animal, and you've been out on campaigns, and you really know your stuff. So I think that'll be a good listen. Now, I do want to say, though, to your point about all the new people, we do appreciate the reviews. So, if you love the Ryan episode of Overcoming the Divide, give that some stars, but also a 5-star review for us would be super helpful, because we're just on the tip of Apple noticing us again. Also, we read them, and if you have an idea for an episode, we would love to hear it. In fact, Ryan and I are currently planning our second ever trip together. Despite doing 4 years of a travel podcast together, we mostly spent time together in New York City. We did day trips and things around. But last year we went to Richmond, Virginia together. It was a perfect long weekend trip because it was a sort of second tier city. Is that offensive to say second tier city? A smaller city, had just the right amount of museums, cultural happenings, restaurants, bars. We could pack it into 4 days together. So we're looking for ideas right now of where to go.
And Richmond does quite well on this list from our friends who we're going to talk about today.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
I know I've been just sussing out Louisville with a Mammoth Cave drive for a night. I think that is leading the list at the moment, but I've looked at in Minneapolis. Maybe we're looking at somewhere in Michigan. So if you've got an idea for where Kieran and Ryan should go, you put it in the comments, or you could email us at outofofficepod@gmail.com.
outofofficepod@gmail.com, or always on Instagram at OOO podcast. Kieran, maybe we'll come up with an idea of where to go today as we're talking through these tourist attractions across the United States.
I think it's time to take off.
Hey, Brittany.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
Well, welcome, Brittany. Thank you so much for joining us here at Out of Office.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, you had an article for HawaiianIslands.com that go kind of viral last week on the internet. I actually read about it on dig.com. And it's a really interesting premise, because what you're doing is you're looking at what travelers from every state in the country, what are their favorite tourist attractions? So, I'm from Maryland. What is my favorite? What are Marylanders' favorite tourist attractions? I live in New York. What are New Yorkers' favorite tourist attractions? And it's a very interesting way to sort of look at all that America has to offer. And I'm curious, how did you all go about doing this study? What's the methodology behind it?
So we have a few different studies that really focus on TripAdvisor reviews. We found that vacationers really put a lot into thinking about reviewing a certain place, basically. So we kind of just dug into a lot of common attractions that we knew were popular, and we went to TripAdvisor and looked at all of the reviews. We had probably about 8,000 locations that we had to sift through, but we would take the average ratings basically given by the tourists from each state or major U.S. city, and that's kind of how we gathered all of the data methodology for this.
Oh, that's very cool. And, I've talked about on the show that I think TripAdvisor is sort of undervalued as a research tool. If you know how to use it, you can find a lot of cool stuff in there. And you often do that by going beyond the first page, seeing what people do, go in a little deeper and find some find those attractions that are maybe less popular than others. So very cool. So you did this study, you're looking at all this different TripAdvisor data. What were some of the biggest surprises? What were some of the biggest surprise attractions that people really liked?
I was definitely surprised that some people really like the Bryce Canyon and Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. I mean, I'm surprised and I'm not surprised because when you look into the data, you can see that tourists generally like very nature-based attractions and historical-based attractions. So I think a little mix of the history with the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Virginia, and then a little mix of the nature-based attraction like Bryce Canyon in Utah. It shows you generally what vacationers go towards, what they like visiting. So I was a little shocked, but not majorly, because of course, we've done this data methodology before, so we've kind of seen a trend over time.
So I'm going to link to the article in the show notes, obviously, and folks can take a look at the map, because I think if you're planning a road trip, this is an excellent way to say, what are the things in each state really not to miss. What were some of the other sort of highest rated attractions?
So I dug into a little bit of the cities in terms of attractions that I was a little bit surprised about too, which was Kansas City, Missouri. I know that's not attraction specific, but we have both in the article. So that was one that also surprised me. In terms of other attractions that were popular, I mean, there's a ton. Sugarland's Distilling Company in Gatlinburg, since I am based in Franklin. I found that a little bit surprising. It is very cool. I've been there before. It's a really great time. But I didn't think that would be the top rated attraction where I live and in Kentucky, but it is. Among other attractions, of course, Waimea Canyon in Hawaii. There's no surprise there because it is absolutely stunning. So yeah.
What were some of the, I've been to Kansas City a couple times, and it's a cool town. Good barbecue. They've got a really, I forget what it's called, but they've got this great downtown section that is very walkable and friendly, with a lot of restaurants and bars and music. It's it's a cool place. I can understand why that would rate so high.
Yeah, the barbecue there is incredible.
Absolutely. What other cities scored really high as places to visit?
So other cities, like Phoenix, Arizona, that also doesn't surprise me. I feel like
pretty hot there right now. I have been reading.
Yeah, just a little hot, nothing crazy. But that's definitely one of the higher rated cities. Richmond, Virginia is one of the higher rated cities. San Diego, California, also definitely not surprising. It's beautiful there. That's also one of the top cities that American tourists love.
I was pretty surprised at some of the cities that don't seem to be loved, but in my mind are some of the more popular cities that people visit. So, tourists are not having a good time in Miami, or Los Angeles. These are pretty big. These are pretty big cities. We did an episode on San Antonio, another one that's not super highly rated, but I think is a cool city. I wonder what are the things that folks most dislike about these cities.
So it's funny, if you look at the top cities that Americans dislike, they're mostly Florida cities, which is unfortunate. But I think maybe because they're so popular, there might be more reviews, really more of those negative reviews to kind of take from. So I think there should be a qualifier with this, that some of these cities are more rated heavily. And with that comes, of course, more negative reviews. But I know Tampa, Orlando, and Miami, they're very city-centric. They have attractions like theme parks, where if you look into the top attractions that people dislike, they're aimed towards theme parks like Disneyland or Orlando Universal, Orlando Disney, kind of like those bigger theme destinations.
And I guess that makes sense, right? Because when you plan a trip to Disney or one of these big parks, it's expensive. And so versus going to a national park where, for a family, it's not that expensive to visit. So all of a sudden, what a 5-star review means to Disneyland is different than what a 5-star review means to a national park. So I wonder if that has something to do with it.
Yeah, I definitely think it does. I mean, people are spending more money in these locations, so they expect a higher standard. Whereas to these nature-based attractions, they don't spend a thing. They might pay an entry fee, but it's something like $5 or $10, nothing super crazy. And they still get to enjoy just a different type of experience.
Definitely. Are there any other attractions, basically anywhere across the U.S. that you'd like to point out as attractions that folks should put on their list to visit?
Oh man. Yeah, so I am a little biased towards Hawaii, of course. So I would definitely say Waimea Canyon is definitely one to go to. It's kind of like they call it the Grand Canyon of Hawaii, basically. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm also very partial to Red Rocks Amphitheater because I love live music, and I just feel like it has a sound that you can't really recreate anywhere else. And not on this list, but I equally love as much. Just all of Gatlinburg, Tennessee is great. It's like a small town feel. It's very nature driven. There are some tourist parts of it, of course, like any hot destination, but it's a good getaway to have.
Yeah, and so you said that you're based in Tennessee. Could you give us a couple local recommendations for things you love?
Yeah, so I live in Nashville, or like Franklin and Nashville. They're kind of the same. It's funny because locals love Broadway, but they also hate Broadway because it's so busy. But I fully believe that tourists should visit downtown Nashville because the music scene there is just incredible. There's so much talent down there. And then also connected to it is the Fifth and Broadway, which is a newer kind of attraction shopping area that people love to go see. Like there's more fine dining restaurants and more like intimate music experiences. On top of that, if you ever wanted to see a concert in Nashville, the Ascend Amphitheater is absolutely incredible. The sound there is great, and there's some really good bands that come in through there.
That's awesome. I love Broadway. You know, we've done an episode on Nashville, and I've been, you know, I've walked up and down that strip so many times, and it's just the music. This is the density of music. I don't think there's anything like it in that I've ever seen. Right. So you're walking down, and there's probably like 30 venues that all just have live music going from lunchtime to late night. And you can get your classic country, and you can get more modern stuff, and it's just a real mix of options. It's super cool.
Yeah, it has everything. So my fiance actually is a musician that plays down there, and so he'll play country one night, rock another night, a little pop every now and then. It's crazy. I think the most similar city to Nashville would definitely be Austin, because it's also very music driven. But I've lived in a few different states, and none of those states really have what we have here. So it's great.
Yeah, no, you're making me want to get back. I'm a huge fan of this guy, Jason Isbell.
Oh,
and
yes.
He plays at the Ryman all the time, and I've never seen him there. I've seen him mostly in New York, where I'm largely based. So I've been watching, you know, I know he's coming up there again soon. So I've never seen a show at the old Ryman. I've only been to the new Grand Ole Opry. So that would be cool.
It's a special experience.
Definitely. Well, look, tell us a little bit about HawaiianIslands.com and the various other brands that y'all have.
Yeah, so HawaiianIslands.com is part, it's one site, part of a larger company. So we are StaySense, and we have OTAs, which are online travel agencies. So we have HawaiianIslands.com, FloridaPanhandle.com, and SmokyMountains.com. And essentially with each of these sites, we focus on short-term vacation rentals. So you're able to book a short-term vacation rental, very similar to popular apps like Airbnb and VRBO. So you book your rental, but you can also have access to all of these attractions and restaurants that we personally review, as well as we take our own high-resolution photos, we rate it, and everything like that. So that's what each different site has to offer.
Oh, that's very cool. So you've got those three sites. So if folks are planning trips to any of those locations, they should go check them out. And have you done similar sort of articles about tourism for these other sites? Anything that is interesting?
Yeah, so actually one of our most popular pieces on one of our sites is on SmokyMountains.com. It is the annual leaf map. So we get a ton of coverage each year on this map. We put a ton of data and research time into it. And it basically just tells you when to go, quote, leaf peeping, unquote. It's perfect for people who love fall foliage, and they kind of travel all across the U.S. to see when the leaves peak. So that's our most popular one. And
is that exclusively the leaves in the Smoky Mountain region or in the country?
It covers the entire U.S.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's a great resource.
Yeah, it's one of our most popular ones. We get a ton of traffic from it each year. It rolls out usually in August. So that's our biggest one. But we also have, for our Florida site, we have similar articles to this one where it covers like most expensive vacation destinations, least expensive. But our most popular data point is our shark incident map, which we actually are rolling out this week.
Cool. Can you give us a preview of where not to swim?
No, so essentially it's to show people how rare an attack is. It's very highly unlikely. It does show you exactly where it has happened, how unlikely it is to die from one. And we've taken like surveys of people who said they actually would agree to be attacked by a shark if it meant that it caused no long-term damage, because it actually doesn't feel the way that you think that it would feel.
Well, you're gonna have to send me that, and I'll link to it in the show notes. I would avoid a shark attack in my mind, but
yeah, me too.
I guess it would be a story. You know, it's like you come back with a souvenir. It's a shark scar. That is something you can talk about.
Yeah. That's kind of what's I guess sparked people's interest in the original story. But we do. We're huge sea conservationists, so we don't want people to be afraid of sharks. But it really is to show that it doesn't happen often. and people are interested in it. So
Yeah, no, that's very cool. Well, look, Brittany, thank you so much for your time today. This is really interesting, and we're going to link to these various articles in the show notes. And I think, if folks are planning a trip, there's some great visuals and some great maps to take a look at.
yeah, I definitely agree. Thank you for having me on this. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, Ryan, awesome interview. Thank you very much for Brittany to coming, for definitely inspiring the spirit of wanderlust. And it also inspired my spirit of getting bitten by animals. That's an insane thing about the sharks. But you know what? I think it's almost like a free souvenir. You get a bear, a little nip from a bobcat. These are great stories to tell. Free souvenirs.
Yeah, and it matches the three P's. It's definitely portable. It's a scar
you have no choice.
Carry with you. Yeah, it's potent.
It is very potent.
Literally a shark.
Yes.
Yeah, the more potent it is, the
higher the valuable of a souvenir. Yes.
Exactly. And then it's portable. Wait, what's the third one?
Price. Now,
price. It's free.
Well, not with the American medical system.
Yes,
It's not.
yes.
It might fail on the price test.
Well, it's funny. In the survey, they asked people, would they rather be attacked by a shark or attacked by a bear? And more people picked bear. And bear seems to me, I don't know, it just seems worse, kind of.
I think shark is worse. Bear, at least you can look them in the eye. A shark, I mean, you've just got no idea what's going on down there.
Don't you just feel like sharks get bored faster than a bear? A bear's like, just got less going on.
Yeah, I have heard that the mauling from a bear, like when somebody actually gets eaten and killed by a bear, they do say that can be like long and painful. I think a shark is probably dragging you down and you're losing consciousness pretty fast.
Have you ever seen that documentary, Grizzly?
No, I haven't.
Oof, we should put that on the list.
Dog one?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It sounds a little grisly.
It is grisly.
Now, Ryan, look, we gave ourselves the challenge. We reviewed all of the picks from the map, and we each chose 3 that we were most inspired by.
Yeah, there's a lot of picks. So we've linked in the show notes. You can go and you can see the map for yourself and look around and come up with some ideas of things to see. But I'm going to start with my first pick, which was the Cleveland Museum of Art.
Fantastic.
And, I've been to Cleveland before. I've never been to this museum, but in reading about it, it looks huge. It's got like 50,000 unique items. I mean, it seems like a real serious piece of serious museum. So, and this happens to be the favorite pick of New Yorkers. So as a New Yorker myself, I feel like I want to see what all the fuss is about and check out the Cleveland Museum of Art.
And do you have a sense of whether it's is it like a mini Met in that same way that like the Detroit Museum that we love is?
Yeah, it looks like it has like art from a bunch of different eras and styles and just a lot of stuff. So
I'll tell you, Cleveland has a lot going for it. That I was considering that for our trip, but I know Catherine really wants to go to Cleveland, and so I think we're booking that one for a childless weekend, maybe even a child-full weekend.
Well, then I look forward to your report on the. You'll probably beat me to the Cleveland Museum.
Probably. Now, my first one is also a museum, and it's actually tied to the fact that New Yorkers love things. Mine was the Museum of International Folk Art. It was inspired by 2 other folk art museums that I love. The American Folk Art Museum, which is on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and the Folk Art Museum in Mexico City. These are 2 of my absolute favorites. I love folk art. I think there's something so honest and raw and usually just colorful and exciting about it. And I was just browsing on the website, and folk art. There's always kind of a shifting definition of what exactly defines folk art, and they've got a pretty wide definition of it. I know at the American Folk Art Museum they make a big deal that it's self-taught artists. Here, that actually gets drawn a little looser, but I will say in browsing the collection, a lot of it looks handmade, very close to diverse cultures, and it does look. This is based in New Mexico. It seems to have a wide array of Mexican folk art, which is a lot of the Dia de los Muertos, a lot of Catholic inspired folk art. So definitely right for us, Ryan.
Yeah, this looks great. And Santa Fe is a beautiful city. I haven't been in years, but there's a lot going on in Santa Fe. So my second pick is mentioned briefly in the interview, and I had never heard of this before. But Waimea Canyon in Hawaii, which is called Hawaii's Grand Canyon, and it's inclusive of a state park. And it just looks beautiful. It's just a massive, I've never been to Hawaii. I've always wanted to go. And looking at pictures of this state park when Brittany was talking about it, I was just taken away with how beautiful it was and how I hadn't heard of this before. So really highly rated in the survey, and it looks like some great hikes, some great views, and a Grand Canyon on a little island.
You know what? I was tempted by this. I suspected you might choose it, so I didn't. And I've always been a big advocate for the state parks. There's a great interview in our archives called State Parks with Peter Kujawinski, who's a writer. He published a piece in the New York Times all about how state parks, the state park system, might be the hidden jewel of American tourism. And this definitely sounds like it fits that.
Yeah, most definitely. This seems like a real destination national park.
My second one, I stuck in the museum realm because this next one, it hits that like scratch of just funny little museums. Not funny. I don't want to diminish it, but specific museums. I really like niche museums, and this one is called the Center of the West, the Buffalo Bill Center of the West. And I love anything to do with middle of America, Americana. It hits that Theodore Roosevelt fan part of me. And the Center of the West actually covers is 5 different museums under one roof, as they say. And every single one of these I can see myself spending hours on. The Buffalo Bill Museum, which has possessions and artifacts of Buffalo Bill and Annie Oakley. Ryan, you may famously remember from when we spent some time in a Wild West themed bar in Hell's Kitchen that the Annie Oakley, Annie Get Your Gun musical, one of my absolute favorites, playing on the TV there.
I love this museum. I've never heard of it. When I was in San Antonio, remember, talked a bit about an Old West museum that had some similar things in it. So this looks right up my alley. I love the Americana. I love the sort of cheesy factor of it. And, I don't think I've ever even been to Wyoming.
No, I mean, this is the reason to go. Maybe this is next year's trip.
Yes.
You've got the Plains Indian Museum. The Cody Firearms Museum, completely focused on firearms.
Our conservative listeners,
they're going to love that. See, there's something for everybody. A natural history museum called the Draper National History Museum, and the Whitney Western Art Museum. And this one, again, really appeals to me because they have works by Frederick Remington, who was a famous sculptor that Theodore Roosevelt absolutely loved. Always lots of cowboys, lots of
and he invented the Remington rifle.
Is that true?
I don't know.
You just lost all those firearms enthusiasts that we just had.
We're going to get a lot of angry notes about that. Yeah.
No, informative notes. We're interested in the culture. So anyway, I just love the eclectic nature of these museums. I think it reminds me a little bit of my trip to South Dakota. Just this like proud American take on the culture of the Midwest. I hate it, absolutely hate it, when I hear anything described as flyover country. There's places of great value and beauty all over the U.S., all over the world. And this museum just drew me in because it feels like it celebrates that.
Yeah, no, this is very cool. And Cody looks like a really cute town. There's a trolley tour you can take around town, and I'd put Cody on the list. All
right, I'm adding Cody to the list.
All right. So my next one is a little bit spooky.
Oh God, you might have chosen the same one I did.
the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
That's the one.
Really? Oh, yeah, that's so funny.
That same one. Well, I mean, the name jumps out at you. The Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
I mean, it seems like it's very Wes Anderson. Like, and looking at this building, which is from the late 1800s, it's a Gothic revival Tudor building. It's a beautiful old building.
You know what's really interesting about it is, so I'm working on my secret Boston travel book.
Yes, I do.
And I have a story about a local home for the mentally ill. And this had a lot of resonance with that. There was a lot of thought put into the architecture and the style. And I don't think this necessarily lives up to modern standards of care. I will say I was pleased to see on their website that, when I saw the name Lunatic Asylum, I was wondering,
this is in West Virginia. They would have changed it, I think, if it was in, Brooklyn.
Yes, exactly. And as you said, this place was created in the mid 1800s. And so it has ties to Civil War history. And it just seems like a really interesting exploration of medicine and architecture. And frankly, the building itself just looks beautiful.
And our friend from Richmond would be happy because they have a ghost tour once a day. They have
ghost tours. There's some ghosts. And, if you're into ghosts, ghosts of the lunatic are probably, kind of, that's like next level ghosts.
Yeah. So this does look very cool. This is in West Virginia. So not that far. And there's also a national park in West Virginia now. So
the brand new national park, absolutely. New River Gorge, I believe it's called.
Yeah, put that on the list too, Kieran.
This list is getting real long. No, it's good. I love it. Well, these are like, between us 5 places. We'd probably heard of the Cleveland Museum of Art, but I hadn't put it on my destination list. Yeah. I just think it's a fantastic resource. I love this sort of like crowdsourcing of creative places.
We've also linked in the show notes to the fall foliage map, which you can sort of plan a road trip and see some of the best time to watch the leaves change. So a lot of cool stuff they're doing over there. So thank you, Brittany, for coming. And with that, I think it's time for the last stop.
The last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan, we're here in the last stop. This is the final segment of the show, the last segment of the show. That's why it's called the last stop. And it's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. It's popularly known as the People's segment. That's because this segment belongs to everybody in the listening community. We come together as a travel enthusiast group to share unto ourselves. We can give anecdotes, we can give stories, we can give advice, we can share dreams, we can share passions, we can share disappointments, we can share deeply dramatic events that have changed the way we travel. But there's one important criterion. The story, the artifact, the article, it must inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workaday week. So Ryan, I'm going to ask you off your many, many weeks of travel, have you brought a last stop this episode?
I have, Kieran. I am back in New York, and this weekend I am going to the New York Historical Society, which is a very cool museum on the upper west side of New York that tells the story of the history of New York City, and they have a lot of they have a permanent collection with some cool stuff. But I'm going for a very specific exhibit.
Can I guess? I don't know, but can I guess?
Guess.
Is it the new display of Robert Caro's artifacts?
No.
Damn! I was sure I'd get it.
Is that there?
So Robert Caro donated his personal effects and papers to the museum. And I believe they're opening an exhibit on it. I don't know. Maybe they're waiting for him to pass away. I'm not sure.
Well, that'll be reason to go back. No, this is a exhibition that closes on August 13th. So you've got another week or so to check it out. And it's a late 1800s illustrator and commercial artist, Errol Job, who sort of invented this idea of American masculinity. It's called Undercover, J.C. Leidendecker and American Masculinity. And, this is some pretty homoerotic illustrations from the late 1800s. And a lot of the gays have been going on Instagram. So I'm super excited to see this exhibit before it closes and take a peek at old gay New York.
Well, Ryan, if you need to cool down afterwards, I've got good news. I've just confirmed Robert Caro's exhibit. It's on the second floor corridor. They've got some of his papers. They've got one of his typewriters. So definitely swing by that too.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to report back a next episode with the Caro report. Hopefully, Caro is at home writing.
There is a natural tie-in between the two because LBJ, of course, renowned for his endowment.
That's true.
So if you're
I thought you were going to say Robert Caro alive and well in the late 1800s.
I would have more of a joke about Joe Biden. Am I right, my conservative friends? Am I right?
It's a young man.
I would get ready for President Kamala Harris, everybody.
And with that, Kieran, have you brought a last stop?
I have brought a last up. Now, Ryan, this is an interesting one. So, during the COVID, Catherine and I spent quite a bit of time in Maine. Really I had been in Maine briefly before, but really got to know the state a lot better across a number of trips. And there's this controversy that I hadn't heard about that the Boston Globe recently wrote up, which is that there's a big debate coming in Maine about changing their flag. And that's one of those episodes that I've always meant to get on, is to get.
Are they taking off? Are they taking off the Confederate symbols?
Oh, come on, no. It does get a little conservative the further up you go. But we don't support the Confederate flag. I've never seen a Confederate flag in Maine, I'll say. Now, no, the flag. As it stands today, it's quite busy. I actually did not immediately recognize it. So it's got in its center a pine tree, and on one side is a farmer, and he's sort of leaning on a scythe, and on the other side is a kind of grizzled fisherman with an anchor. And then
it's a really silly looking flag.
And then below the pine tree is a moose, and then above the pine tree is a star. So it's got a lot going on. There's a lot of messaging, but I would say
this is a little homoerotic. These two guys kind of looking over the.
Bring it to the New York Historical Society. You do get a good set. Like if I showed it to you without you knowing what state it was, you definitely guess Maine. I mean, it's farming, it's fishing, and it's moose. That's Maine for you.
Yeah, they got everything in there.
But they're looking to bring it back to what was actually the state's original flag from 1901 to 1909. It's extremely simple, and it's simply a pine tree, and it's not like I feel like the current one almost looks kind of Photoshoppy or like clip arty. It's this nice kind of handmade looking pine tree with a blue star above. Very simple. It's on a white background. I think it has iconic status possible in a way. I could doodle it, and I definitely could not doodle the current flag, but this controversy has set off a big kerfuffle among kind of new Mainers and old Mainers. And the old Mainers love this old flag. They feel it represents their culture, and they feel that it's the young and the interlopers from Massachusetts who are forcing this old new flag on them.
I'm reading the Wikipedia on the flag of the state of Maine. The North American Vexillological.
Sure. Yeah. Vexillological Society. That's the study of flags. Exactly.
The membership. This is the only membership organization that's exclusively dedicated to the science and scholarly study of flags. They conducted a survey in 2001 of all their members who folks pretty engaged in this. If you're going to belong to that society, you're pretty, you're flag crazy. And they ranked it as one of the worst in design.
Yeah.
Of the 72 U.S. state, territorial, and Canadian provincial flags, Maine's flag ranks 60th.
So I would love to get a vexillologist. A vexillologist, is that what it is?
A vexillologist, yeah.
I would love to get a vexillologist on the podcast. There's a couple books that have come out that I think the authors could be good matches. Also, I listen to a show called The Gist with Mike Pesca, and he does flag-centric news when it comes out. He does kind of a grab bags of news and commentary. He loves flags. So maybe we could book one of them on a future show. We could talk about this Maine controversy.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could get, one of these many media contacts here on the North American Vexillological Association website to come on and talk a bit about flags.
And we can also link to the show notes so you can get a look and tell us what you like. And
I think you should throw a couple of these up on the old Instagram, because there's some funny looking versions of this flag they've had over
and
over
that's
time.
OOO podcast, OOO podcast, like ooh podcast or out of office podcast.
So Kieran, Brittany and I talked a bit about Nashville. She lives in Tennessee and she's a big fan. So I think it would be fun next week if we release as a return trip. The episode we did about Nashville a few years ago, we go into a lot of detail, and it's such a cool city. And I was just thinking more and more about it after our conversation with Brittany. So next week on Tuesday, August 1, check your feed. You have a return trip to Nashville with us. And then on August 8th, we're doing a big episode, Kieran.
Excellent. I've blocked off 16 hours to record.
This is going to be like...
it's going to be very
epic.
Hard for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is called, this is based on our hit episode, Your First Trip to London. We're doing your first trip to New York City. If you haven't been to New York City before, what are the must-dos? What are the secret things that you're going to want to see and tell your friends about? And if you have been
well, hold on. I don't know about secret things. This is our we'll mix in one or two secret things.
Yeah, I want to put in a couple of things that I think that people should really see, Well, until then, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kieran Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
The seat taken. Brian, while you're up at the New York Historical Society, you got to check out the big new addition to the American Museum of Natural History.
I know. I want to see that. They've gotten both the big interior update plus the new park out front.
I know. It's going to be unbelievable. I can't wait to see it.